What's up, Guardians, and welcome back, Warlocks. School's back in session, and today we'll be checking out an unlikely Prismatic build that features the Swarmer's exotic boots. When Prismatic was released, I was almost certain that the Swarmer's performance would be lackluster when used with this subclass. I just felt like it was an exotic that was destined to only be used on a strained subclass. But I recently took some time to give this exotic a fair assessment, and I have to say that with the Prismatic subclass, I was more than impressed. This build is nothing like its strained counterpart. We'll be missing out on a lot of the suspension abilities, but in so many ways, this becomes a much more powerful build on Prismatic, with better ability uptime and more survivability components. The Swarmers provides the unique benefit of creating 2 Threadlings whenever destroying a Tangle. This also gives those Threadlings the ability to unravel targets. Unraveled targets take continuous damage over an 8-second window. When several of these little green rats are attacking an enemy all at once, it's like watching an angry school of piranha attack a wounded dolphin. It's vicious. What makes these Threadlings so overwhelming is that each time a different Threadling strikes an enemy, it refreshes the unraveling counter. If there's no enemies for these little green monsters to munch on, then they'll return back to us, with as many as 5 of them sticking right by our side, waiting to spring out towards enemies. To optimize the use of the Swarmers, we simply have to create a lot of Threadlings, and we have every intention of doing so. Between our Prismatic subclass, our weapon loadouts, and our artifact mod, we'll be generating these little green devils like hotcakes on a Sunday morning. So let's dive into those Prismatic abilities. First things first, we're throwing Feed the Void in there. This is going to give us Devour whenever we defeat an enemy with an ability. This even includes final blows from weapon perks like Volt Shot, Scorch, or Hatchling. When Devour is active, final blows will refresh its timer. Each final blow will restore our health and grant us with as much as 20% bonus grenade energy. This will greatly improve the uptime of our Threadling grenades, which will instantly spawn 3 Threadlings. We've also got the Weaver's Call aspect, which will generate 3 more Threadlings whenever we cast our class ability. We're combining these with Phoenix Dive, which will grant us Cure in the process, and it comes with a much shorter cooldown time than a Rift would, letting us get out more Threadlings. We're using Arcane Needles, which will give us another opportunity at unraveling enemies, and we'll have up to 3 of those charges. We've also got Needle Storm. This launches out as many as 9 supercharged Threadlings, and any Threadlings that are perched to us will go along for the ride. When it comes to our fragments, we've gone with Facet of Awakening. This will be very important for this build. When we rapidly defeat enemies with our light or dark based energies, we'll create a Tangle. We can only do this once every 10 seconds, but because we're also using the Elemental Siphon artifact mod, we'll be able to generate 2 Tangles every 10 seconds. We're also using Facet of Honor, so whenever we destroy those Tangles, we'll generate bonus Transcendent energy. When we're Transcended, we'll have overpowered abilities that we can continuously spam, so this will help us get there faster. We're using Facet of Balance, so whenever we defeat enemies with light-based energies, we'll generate 10% bonus melee energy. And when we defeat enemies with darkness-based energies, we'll generate an extra 10% grenade energy. The majority of our final blows are going to come from Threadlings, which means we'll be triggering that bonus grenade energy much more often. We're using Facet of Purpose, and that's going to give us Woven Mail. We'll need to create orbs to make that happen, and that's why we are using Helmet Siphon mods and Reaper class item mods to generate orbs off of weapon final blows. To add an extra level of survivability, we're also using the Facet of Protection. Whenever we're surrounded by enemies, we'll have a 15% bonus in damage resistance, but when we are Transcended, that will be increased to 25%. This will stack on top of Woven Mail, which will really help us endure some of those brutal onslaughts. If we had a way to make us amplified, we could also use the Galvanic Armor artifact mod to give us even more damage resistance. But with how this build is currently set up, the only way to do that would be for us to use the Exteris exotic grenade launcher. And between Woven Mail, Phoenix Dive, Devour, and Facet of Protection, I think we'll be in a good position as far as survivability goes. There's a few other artifact mods that we are using with this build. The Counter Energy mod will grant bonus ability energy whenever stunning a champion. This will grant 25% bonus energy to the least charged ability, and that's every time a champion is stunned. If we were to incorporate void weapons and weapons that caused weakening effects, we could also make use of the Expanding Abyss and Void Hegemony. But instead, we're utilizing Threaded Blast, which is going to cause the explosions of our tangles to cause more damage to a much larger area. We're also using Shield Crush, so whenever we have Woven Mail active, we'll gain a bonus to the regeneration rate and damage of both our grenade and our melee abilities. And that means the Threadlings that are created by our grenade are going to deal more damage. We're also making use of the Radiant Orbs mod, so whenever we pick up an orb, we'll have a 20% bonus to all weapon damage, plus the ability to pierce barrier shields. The creation of orbs will be beneficial in two ways. It gives us that woven mail, and it gives us radiance, but it will also give us armor charges. And since we are using Grenade Kickstart, we'll be able to convert those armor charges into grenade energy whenever we use our grenade. With 2 Grenade Kickstart mods and a Stacks on Stack mod, we should be able to consistently trigger a 44% bonus to our grenade energy. We already had amazing regeneration going on because of Devour, but this will really push us over the edge, allowing us to spawn so many more Threadlings. When it comes to the rest of our armor, we're using mods like Bomber and Innervation to give us bonus grenade energy. And when it comes to the character stats that we're focusing on, Resilience is the big one, and this reduces the overall amount of damage that you take. From there, it would be Recovery, Discipline, and then Strength. With all these different components contributing towards our ability uptime, we're going to be able to generate so many Threadlings that our enemies won't know what to do. Everything's going to be unraveled, taking continuous damage, so all we really need to do is finish them off with our strand weapons, and call it a day. We would ideally like to incorporate weapons that create Threadlings, and this is achieved through the Hatchling's trait. Slice would also be a great combo perk. This would neuter our enemy's damage by 40%. Demolitionist and Strategist would also be great perks to have, to be able to restore our grenade or class ability energies faster so that we can create more Threadlings. As far as exotics go, there's a few that I really like to fall back on, but their use is situational. The Wishkeeper will bridge the gap in the loss of suspension ability. This creates suspension traps that would pair up wonderfully with all these Threadlings. The Wishkeeper also has the option of Hatchlings as one of its refits. I like to reserve the Thorn for when Overload champions are present. This hand cannon is just so strong right now with its poison, and it pairs up so well with Strand. Outbreak Perfected is another option that will synergize very nicely. This will handle barrier champions right now, and it's going to melt your opponents when those Siva clusters and Threadlings start going to town. The Final Warning is also an absolutely fantastic choice. It just got a new catalyst too, so it's even better than it was before. I like pairing any of these exotics up with the Indebted Kindness. It's a powerful rocket sidearm that has the options of Lead from Gold and Permeability. I like this combination because it keeps me loaded up on ammo, and it lets this become a strand weapon. And when it comes to our choice in heavy weapon, the Pro Memoria, the Scintillation, and the Circular Logic are the 3 big ones that I tend to go with. And all of them have the option of coming with Hatchlings. You'll be creating so many Threadlings with this build that sometimes you're just going to have to sit there and watch them do their thing. It's pretty ridiculous, but pretty damn awesome. It's like watching Shark Week. Like I said earlier, the Swarmers is definitely a strand exotic, but with the fusion that's created with Prismatic, the paradigm gets completely flipped, giving you a very powerful and very aggressive Warlock build that has insane ability uptime and an army of little green monsters. And with that said, we've now come to an end of today's Prismatic Warlock build featuring the Swarmers. I'd love to hear your thoughts about today's build, the Swarmers, Prismatic Warlock, and the current state of Destiny. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you need help putting together this build or any other build, be sure to check out the Mobalytics link down in the description, where you can find a ton of great Warlock and Titan builds, with Hunters coming soon. Thank you as always for checking out the video. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated, and both really do help support the channel. If you're a new Light Guardian, just starting your journey, or a battle-hardened veteran, just looking for a new home, then be sure to check out the Discord link that's also down in the description, and join one of the greatest communities in all of Destiny. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.